Welcome back. Well, for the markets, the mid-cap index up around 0.8%. The advanced decline ratio is still holding in the green. So that's a positive that we can see. The Nifty PSC index is doing well today. So that one is up around 1.1%. So do watch out for that, giving the mid-cap index company. But let's talk about one particular company that did release its numbers on Monday. It reported what was a good set of numbers. Both revenue and EBITDA were healthy. To discuss this and the impact of the custom duty cut on X-ray tubes, flat panel detectors, we have with us Himanshu Baid, who's the MD of the company, joining in. Mr. Baid, thank you very much for taking the time out. Let's start with a steady growth of around 20-odd%, which you've been reporting, for multiple quarters now. Just break it up for us this quarter. How much did you grow in the domestic business? How much did you grow in exports? Because you've said that traditionally what you've seen in the past few quarters is that domestic is underperforming exports. Was that the case this quarter, the growth rate and your guidance?
Yeah, I think, Ekta, you're right. So still export is actually doing very well. And we have grown over 25% in exports. But domestic has kind of underperformed. We are in that 6-7% range. But I think when we look at, we break domestic into two parts. So we have, let's say, a government business, and then we have, let's say, a trade business. So trade business has done very well. That has grown by around 20%. But there was a decline in government business by around 30 to 40%. And the main reason was that few products which we had last year, we have discontinued some products which were supplying to government. And that is the main reason we saw a negative growth. But we are pretty much confident that domestic business will also come back to track, with that 20% growth rate overall in next coming quarters.
Give us the growth rates for this quarter.
Say again?
Could you just give us a segmental breakup this quarter?
Yeah, so when we look at the segments, renal has done very well. So renal business has grown by around 40% overall. And our vascular business has also grown by around 20-25% in that range. So we are seeing a good growth in the existing and the new businesses we have started. Only one business which didn't do well was the government segment. And I think we are not very focused there. So hopefully the numbers will normalize in the next few quarters.
All right. What about, exports and domestic? What did they grow at? What are they likely to grow at this year? How much is government as an overall, contributor to your overall sales? What happened to that? And again, renal, you said it's grown 20-25%. What's the absolute number here?
So renal, we have done a revenue of 30 crores plus in the first quarter. And we have guided for between 140 to 150 crores this year for renal revenue from 90 crores in the previous year. And when we look at the export growth rate, I think we will see export growing around close to 25% plus in the full year, and maybe domestic business grows around close to around 22 to, let's say, 24%. So overall, again, we stay with our guidance of 22 to 24%, which have told in the beginning of the year. So I think we are on track for that revenue guidance.
Okay, so FY25 growth should be 20 to 22%. Is that correct?
The total growth should be between 22 and 24%. That is what
22 to 24%. And what about the margins? Because that's improved, Q on Q. You've done 27%. What resulted in this margin improvement? Was it better realizations in exports? And what are you guiding for?
See, again, margin, if you remember, Ekta, we had talked about, 100 to 150 pips improvement in the beginning of the year. So I think we continue with that guidance. And I think, of course, we see a traction, better margins and exports. But I think our new product ranges in cardio and critical care are also, coming up well, because we are launching 8 to 10 products in each category right now. So they will also help us to improve margins going forward in the year. So I think we will stay with that number of 100 to 150 pips. So we should continue with that.
Yeah, board had okayed, given you an approval to raise about 800 crores via QIP. Just wanted to know what's the update on that. This board approval came back in March. Now we're in the month of July. By when do you plan to raise this?
So we had taken a new approval because the initial approval was for, let's say QIP or preferential or debt. So finally, the final approval was taken in end of June for a QIP. And we have now, gone back to the shareholders and waiting for the shareholders' approval. Hopefully, this should come in early August. And after that, I think by third to fourth week of August, we should be able to do our fundraise.
Okay.
And this is for 800 crore itself, right?
Yeah, that is between up to 1,000 crores. So, but the final number has not been decided, but we'll decide it closer to the date.
Okay. What are the funds going to be used for?
So mainly for new plants, we are planning to set up some new plants. So that is where so the existing capex we are doing right now from our internal approvals is happening in the existing plants, and we are ramping up capacity in the existing plants. But for the new projects, we are looking at around 3 to 4 new plants to be set up in next 24 months, and the new capex and the fundraise will go there.
Okay. Well, I just have 2 questions and I'm going to ask you to be brief on them. For the US business, have you already started supplying? Because I understand that there was some approval from the US FDA for certain devices.
Yes, we have started shipments in Q2. The first shipment goes in Q2 this year. So in next a few weeks from now, and we've already got 4 approvals and 8 to 10 are in pipeline right now.
So what are these 2 devices which you will be supplying to the US?
So basically covering the infusion category, infusion product, the vascular access category, which is our core business. That is where we are going to start selling in the US market.
Okay. And how much do you expect to make from it?
See, I think we have given a guidance for that 3 to 4 year guidance of $15–20 million. So we'll stay with that because the ramp up will take time. But I think the start has already happened. So I think that is more important for us.
And what about the margins?
Margins, I think we should stay in that range, what we have been telling. So I can't specifically talk about US right now because it's just the initial start. But I think in next few quarters, I'll be able to give a better visibility.
Okay, just quickly, I wanted to ask you about the budget. These basic customs duty on X-ray tubes and flat panel detectors, it goes into the eventual making of X-rays. Those are the components where the customs duty is reduced. Tell us how much was the customs duty, how much is it reduced to, and why are we not producing these indigenously?
See, I think the biggest problem was that, it has come under the phased manufacturing program. And under phased manufacturing program, the duty was increased for finished products. I think it's close to around 20% now for finished products. And for the components, it was still higher. And it was actually, and some of these are, very critical devices which are manufactured by very few companies in the world. So the government decided to reduce the duty on parts and components so that the manufacturing in India becomes more competitive. And I think it's part of that. So, but I think overall the medtech industry still benefits from lower duty on parts and component raw material through a special exemption. And I think that is actually pushing more manufacturing in the country. So I think that we are grateful to the government that they're continuing with that, lower duty for raw material and parts.
All right, take that point. Thank you so much for joining in and giving us the view on the business and the outlook going ahead. 42% is what we've seen in terms of a stock price move over the last 6 months. Let's see at what point, you do come out with that fundraising plan of yours. We'll wait until the end of August. The size and issue price of the QIP that you're talking about is something we'll keep an eye out on. Close to around 20 to 24% growth in this year is what the management of Poly Medicure is guiding for this year. Take a short break, come back, focus on the markets. Pritesh Mehta joins in with some trading strategies.